Fear is the mother of isolation, as grief is the mother of guilt. The acceptance of losing someone can be almost impossible. And when the hope of looking forward to seeing someone you loved is forever in doubt, the spaces in between can lead to a life sentence of loneliness. Eddie is a retired Los Angeles police officer. Rosa, a restaurant manager. His wife committed suicide. Her husband disappeared in Mexico. Their self-imposed guilt has led them to destroy their dreams. But their attraction to one another might be the key towards unlocking the deep sadness and uncertainty that has held their souls in a timeless prison without love or connection to the outside world. Isolated from family, friends, and life, they're really only hiding from themselves. Director Melvin Ishmael Johnson presents a story by George Corbin, Sabado Mornings, developed by the Playwrights Workshop Lab at the Roby Theater. Sabado Mornings stars J.C. Cadena as Rosa, Jonathan Wynn is Eddie, and also starring T.J. Ba and Aaron Garcia. Sabado Mornings, opening Thursday, September 8th, running through Sunday, September 25th, at Studio Stage, 520 Northwestern, Fridays and Saturdays at 8 and Sundays at 5. Tickets available at blacktheater.org.
Welcome to Sabado Mornings by George Corbin, opening Friday, September the 9th, 2013 at 8 o'clock p.m. at the Studio Stage, 520 Northwestern Avenue, Los Angeles, California, 90004. Ticket information, 213-908-5032. Online tickets, blacktheater.org. Welcome to Theater in Focus, an in-depth look at theater on the local scene in Los Angeles. May the peace and blessings of the life-giving creative spirit be upon you and upon your family. My name is Melvin Ishmael Johnson, coming at you live from Morris Media Studio. And I'm in the studio with my co-host, Bill White. Our call-in number is 323-293-3375. To see the broadcast live, Google in morrismedialive.com. Tonight on Theater in Focus, we will talk to the cast of Sabado Mornings and some of the playwrights and production team from the 3rd annual LEIMERT Park Theater Festival. I'm delighted to have with us in the studio some of the cast and production team of Sabado Morning, written by George Corbin. Welcome to Theater in Focus.
Thank you.
Let's go around the table and introduce yourself and tell our listening audience about what part you play. Let's start with J.C.
All right. Well, my name is J.C. Cadena, and I play Rosa, a restaurant manager with a nice attitude, I think. It's a wonderful opportunity to get diversity and the theater out there for the masses, and I welcome everybody to come and check us out. This is our second run, and so excited because this one we're going to do it bigger and better.
Okay.
Yes, I'm Jonathan Wynn, and I play the character of Eddie Thompson, a retired detective, LAPD detective. And this guy is just ridden with guilt, and his wife had committed suicide, and he has retired from the police department here in Los Angeles. And as I said, he's just ridden with guilt and just ill feelings behind his wife, and he happens to be a part of a poetry workshop on Saturday mornings, and before he attends the workshop, he goes to this restaurant in downtown LA and meets this waitress, Rosa.
Okay.
That's right. That's what happens.
And I'm Aaron Garcia, and I play Benny the cook. So I'm a cook in the restaurant with Rosa. So I'm new to the play. I wasn't in the run before, so I'm very excited to be here and surprised they haven't asked me to leave yet.
Okay, we got two other guests on the end.
I am John Freeland Jr. I'm the production stage manager.
Mm-hmm. And then one more sitting right here. Want to introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Bill White. I'm co-host the show tonight, and I loved Sabado Morning, and I hope you try and see it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, let's start off with JC. Let's talk about how did you get off into theater? Tell us a little about your background. How did you get off into
Oh my
acting?
gosh. Okay, that's a very long story, but we're going to make it kind of brief. I actually was a singer before I became an actress. I sang all through my high school, and then I gave it up in college and decided to go for production. I really enjoyed production or communication because I really love to give the right message to my parents and eventually to the audience out there. I moved out to LA after a friend just asked me to move out here, and the first time I asked my mother to move out, she said no, and I didn't move. But this second time I was old enough to make my own decisions, and they didn't think I was gonna stay, and I did ended up staying until now. And I found theater actually here in LA. I found it at the Latino side. I found a lot of Mexican theater that needed someone like me. And they gave me the opportunity to actually do a play in Spanish, and I had really a horrible accent speaking Spanish, English accent speaking Spanish. And but the director Gonzalo Garcia and Juan Gles gave me the opportunity to work with them, and nobody knew that I had an accent speaking Spanish because I was so good at what I did, learned my right way to say the words, and that's how I started. Really, honestly, in the Latino market, I still do some productions with them, and luckily enough, I've had the opportunity to work with you. If the shoe fits, many productions of being an activist. So LA really has brought that the acting bug. I do theater, film, and television. I only sing when the actress, my director, wants me to. So now I've let the singing go, and now I'm an actress.
And where did you go to school then?
I went to school for my undergrad. I went to school at George Mason University in Virginia. And then for acting, I went to a conservatory here, the American Academy of Dramatic Arts on Hollywood, and on La Brea and the Long Prairie. So, yeah, that was fun. I mean, I realized that I needed a lot of work to do, and I am not a self-taught person. Like, I really like to get the real gritty from people that have already done it, know it. Mm-hmm. So I felt that I needed some background and some real, basis for my acting, because I really fell in love with it here, and it grabbed me. And there's nothing like the stage. I mean, I find it's a dream all the time. I go out there, and it's just an amazing opportunity to deliver a great message, especially with you, Melvin and Bill and everybody in the cast and crew. I really do believe that this is an amazing project. It gives diversity to theater that is really difficult to have. And that's why I'm part of it, because I feel that it's important for us to show our faces, to show what we look like, brown, whatever color it is, but we need to be integrated, diversity. Yes.
How about you, John?
Well, myself, as the years have gone on, looking back on hindsight, which is always a beautiful way to look back on one's life, I see that now I was always a performer. Although I didn't realize it until some years later. I was an athlete. I played football and ran track. And while I was in college playing ball, excuse me, I took an acting class. And in that acting class, at first I was just very heavily intimidated by the other actors, like Paul Winfield, several actors. They intimidated me. I didn't find myself being able to emote like them, speak like them, and in my head, that's where I was, trying to be like something outside of me, instead of being myself. And one day I did this scene from Raisin in the Sun. And, I always thought I was the lowest actor in this act. It was a beginning acting class. And after the thing was over with, we were able to invite, by the way, some family members or friends. And I had invited my grandmother and mother. And they both were in the arts. And they were just kind of surprised and shocked to see me up there. And this casting director came up to me and says, you're the only one that was believable to me. All the others were overacting. And I didn't even understand what she meant by being believable, or overacting, tell you the truth.
Was that out here?
That was out here in Los Angeles City College. That's where I first started. And then I went to Pierce Junior College, became a theater arts major, and then I went to UCLA. And eventually I stopped playing football, and I was looking forward to playing professional football. I was drafted by the St. Louis Cardinals. This was before the franchise had moved to Arizona. And I was going to play ball. That was my dream as a kid. But something happened in this acting class, and in my heart and in my spirit, I just seemed to find myself, and it became bigger than football. And it just kind of overtook myself. And I have to admit, after I graduated from college and received my degree in theater arts, I still didn't go into acting. I went into dance because I also took a modern dance class while I was in college. The football coach said, if any of you players want to get an easy A, take this modern dance class. So I was one of the guys that took it and continued it. And even after I got out of college, I continued taking some dance classes, and dance jobs just seemed to kind of take place first. And then eventually I started studying with Stella Adler. Then I studied with Jeff Corey. And then I started getting one-liners here, two-liners there on TV shows, three-liners. And I still didn't have the confidence, to be honest with you. But as the years went on, I always kind of fell back into the theater. I was still getting one-liners, 2, 3-liners on television, what have you, even some films. But things continued. And I have to admit, this guy sitting to my right here, Bill White, some years had gone on now, and then he was doing a play here in LEIMERT Park. And I went, and it was different because it was like, I don't know what they called it, prose reading and I at first I was intimidated by it because I just didn't know how to read it. And, but eventually I got into it, and we did a second production on it, and I was just having a good time up there. So make the story short, things just continued onward, and then years later, Bill directed a play by Melvin Ishmael Johnson called Catch the Tiger regarding Marcus Garvey. And then I was invited to do Sabado Mornings by George Corbin. And this is a very special play, as well as was Catch the Tiger. But this beautiful play by George is a love story. And it's very touching, very moving, very heart-throbbing. So anyway, this is how I got going and still going, and that's where my heart is and spirit is.
Okay. Aaron.
I guess I don't know where it really started, but I guess I've been involved in like stage theater my whole life, like doing like middle school plays. And I moved to England when I was 8. I lived there for 8 years, and then you could take like 2-year courses. So I started drama for 2 years there, and then moved to the States, and I kind of fell out of it for a while. So I didn't do much. I went to college at Clemson, and I studied business management, and I don't think I've used that degree for anything related to that field. So after I graduated, I moved to China, actually, and I was living there for 2 years, and I was working 6 days a week teaching English in the middle of nowhere, China. And I kind of had like a moment of clarity, like, what am I doing with my life? I'm here in the middle of nowhere. I could be doing this at home. So I kind of just, I really missed acting, and I'd done a couple short films with my friends in China, and I just kind of was like, man, get back to it. Just do it. It makes you happy to do it. So I ended up moving to Shanghai and doing theater there for like 2.5 years. Mm-hmm. And just staying in stuff. There's not a big scene, but it's a busy scene. Like you can find yourself involved in stuff. Mm-hmm. So I just threw myself into everything and was just, all right, I want to just stay busy. So I did. I ended up doing like 10 shows in 2 years, and in the middle of that, I was like, all right, you know what? All right, go pursue acting. Go for it. So I originally wanted to move to New York because I love theater. Film's okay, but I think I'm not good at film. So, and then it kind of changed. Just there's more opportunity out here to kind of do both, and it was just a minimally cheaper to live here than it was in New York. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I moved in February, and I don't know. I'm just so excited to be involved in a show again. You know, I feel very honored, very lucky to be working with you guys, the cast and crew here. Mm-hmm. So
okay. And John, you remember the brother that was in that wrote Brownsville? He was living in China too, wasn't he?
He lived in Japan.
Japan. Okay,
yeah.
that's right.
Aaron Woodfork. Aaron Woodfork. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Another Aaron.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, let's hear from John.
Hi.
Hi.
Wow. 8th grade. Play was going on. Teacher asked me to be in it. I don't know why. Somebody in the play was going to the Upward Bound program at the time, so they were leaving. So they asked me to be in a play. I think I had a week of rehearsal, if that. And I played a cop who arrests Santa Claus.
Oh, that's cute.
And for Philadelphia.
Yeah. And it got some laughs. And I go, this is interesting. Maybe. So in high school, there was not a theater program in my high school, but there was something going on in the city one year, and I was in, what's the play? Sharks and the Jets, West Side Story.
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
So I was one of the Jets, doing whatever.
Jets?
Yeah.
Jets,
Sharks.
yeah.
Sharks. Oh, one of them, It was so long ago. And so I kind of had the bug, but I was always in choir in high school. So I was always so I lived in the choir room, and then I took African drumming because we had somebody from Ghana come to the college, which was Wesleyan University, and he was teaching African drumming in the high school. So I took that for a minute. Then the next year I took dance, and then somebody was doing a play in school, and I did that. And then I went to a community college where it wasn't a theater program, it was a theater class. So the teacher would pick a play that would accommodate everybody in the class. So there's 20, 25 people in class. So it would pick a play, and the next thing you know, I'm directing a play. I don't know anything about directing. I don't know anything about acting, really. And I'm standing in the chair, like directing people to move over there, to move over here, move over there, And I was in a piece that I was directing. I'll never do that again. Be in a play and direct it. That's just two hats at the same time. It's very tough. And then somebody came to see it, and they were teaching at the 4-year school, which was Wesleyan University. And then I started going there in the summer, and I spent 3 years at Wesleyan, and I think I did like 13 plays in 3 years. And that's all I did. I didn't take any biology classes. I didn't take any math classes. All I did was theater all day, every day, and became a teacher's assistant as well. And other professors would send students to me to help them with their, with the physicality of the characters, because it's just like everybody walks differently, everybody talks differently. And so I just got immersed, and then I left school and didn't go to New York, because I grew up in Connecticut. I was 2 hours away from New York, but I didn't think I could live in New York City full time, even though I can go into the city and do whatever and then, come home. So I moved out here and started doing, a little bit of television and whatnot, and I started doing theater with Inner City Cultural Center, and just doing everything at Inner City Cultural Center, from administrative stuff to teaching classes to hosting shows and everything. And then, you run into Glenn Turman and Bea Richards and Ted Lang, Pat Morita. Everybody was working. George Sanford Brown. There was a bunch of people who were working there, and also, thing. And so it just continued on. And so doing a lot of plays as an actor, and then the stage management kind of thing kind of took over. I said, well, people don't know me, and ain't nobody calling my phone. So, and I like production, so I like being in on the production side, and then started directing more, and then, here I am a few years later doing this, and and happy to be with Sabado Mornings, and and met Melvin through the Roby Theater Company.
Oh, me too.
He was a playwright. Yeah.
Okay, let's. I want to play a clip from another veteran actor, David McKnight, and we're gonna make some comments on that clip. I guess everyone can hear.
I think your question is, what is my opinion that upstart actors, struggling actors, so to speak, newcoming actors, what can they do to gain more employment in Hollywood? Is that what your question is?
Exactly.
Okay. I would say that to develop their professionalism, study as much as you can, understand also that it's a business, and that's one of the most difficult sides of it, is the business side of it. A lot of people have talent. A lot of people have talent and the ability to perform, the ability to do the job. But one of the things that they may fall short on is the business aspect of it, because it is a business, and there's so many things that you have to do on the business side in order to gain employment. So you have to seek out and understand what the business side is. Become familiar with your union, Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, which has just joined SAG-AFTRA now, and also Actors Equity Association. Find out about these unions and how they, protect you and so forth. Find out about casting directors and agents and stuff like that. Find out what it is that they do, how you have to work with them, and how you have to be professional with them and so forth in order to sustain and maintain employment in the industry. That business side is very important once you get your talent straight.
Okay, Jamal. Okay, Bill, you want to pick up on that? And then we'll go around with some comments on what he was talking about.
It's what is very important for you to return your calls, to keep, if somebody contacts you, even on an email, get right back to them. If you're going for a meeting, be on time and be prepared. If you go for an audition send a note back to the director or the cast and say, thank you for the opportunity and so on. And when you show up, have your headshot. You never know what the situation is, but have the basic tools of your trade. You should have it, and try your very best to get along with everybody. You'd be surprised how that spreads if you don't. And I think that's something that we could talk about. Yes.
Okay. But how about those unions that he's talking about, the importance of knowing the unions out here?
Well, it's very important. I've been a member of Screen Actors Guild for a number of years, and Equity, also AFTRA, and I remember when I first joined Screen Actors Guild, I was so proud to have that card with my name on it, saying that I'm a member of SAG. And I see today, as the years have gone on, and new presidents come and go from the Screen Actors Guild, but they really do a wonderful job for the performer, because their whole focus is on the performer. They are there to be at the side of the performer, to protect them in all ways. One thing that McKnight just said, something about this is a business, and it is, because you can get taken advantage of in this business, because it is about money. And from the business standpoint, that's where those minds are. It's about making money. It's about getting their job done. But from the performer standpoint, us creative people, we come from a different spirit. We create. That's what we do. That's where our heart is, if your heart's really into it. The unions are there to protect us, to almost guide us in a way. And you can call the Screen Actors, if you're a member of the Screen Actors Guild and you have a question that you might think, it's too small. No, it's not too small. You can call the union and they will take time with you. And it's really, I feel honored to be a member of SAG. I really do. Interesting, I got a letter from the old president of Screen Actors Guild, who was an actor, a wonderful actor. Can't think of his name offhand.
Ed Asner?
No, this is after Ed Asner. This is
Howard.
Ken Howard. And he said, Jonathan, I just wanted to say that, we respect you so much for being with us for all these years. You do not have to pay your monthly dues for now.
Wow.
And I was so touched. I was so touched, because I'm not a name in the business, so to speak, but I'm an actor. I'm a performer, and that says a lot. And and it's so funny in this business, because we as actors, sometimes, we don't get those pats on the back that we need. And then when we do get them, we have to be very careful, because then you start relying on that pat on the back. And that's not what it's about, because you're not going to get that pat on the back all the time. You have to learn to pat yourself on the back. That's what I've had to learn. And that's how I started gaining more confidence for me, and I was able to put that sense of confidence into my work. And that has really strengthened me and made me a better performer. But that union is always there to look after you, to watch your back. And that's why I'm very, very, I applaud the union for the performer very, very much.
I have to disagree to some degree. I mean, I am a SAG-AFTRA member, and yes, like you, I was also very proud of being on the union. Unfortunately, what I'm realizing is that only 1% of actors are employed, and that 1% is the 1% that all of us know. I think that it is great to be in the union, but I think it's important to really be involved so you can be heard. And I honestly think that there's a few things that the union has to fix in order to make that 1% bigger. It is including the dues that you're discussing. There's a lot of things that I see and a lot of events that they do. And at first I was going to the events. But it is union. Union will be there for you when you're making those big money and you're making all that stuff. While you're trying to make it on your own, it's great to have the union when you make it. But you're on your own. You're on your own even with your agent. Even if you have an agent, you're still on your own. And it is a business. You have to be professional about it. You always have to continue studying. There are some actors that I see out there that are like, oh, I'm just so tired of taking classes. I'm sorry, you're going to be taking classes for the rest of your life if you really want to keep your tools active. And that's something that I've found out. Professionalism and a great attitude, I think, goes a long way. And you got to be smart out there and ask for what you want. Because if you don't ask for it, then nobody's going to give it to you. Mm-hmm. So I think, that's how I feel about the union. I feel anything like that you really have to learn about the business. You really have to go in there in SAG and ask questions and ask why something isn't working for you. And I am so busy at the moment with some other activist movements that I am involved in, but I will be at the union at their meetings, and I will be telling them exactly how I feel, because I am that 99% that is working hard as anything, and there needs to be something out there for the people like us. I don't need your help when I'm making $1 million, $3 million, $5 million. I think I got it by then. I need your help now.
But I wanted to add to that with the union deal is it is a business that people have to learn, and it's a business that's also oversaturated in terms of the actors. I mean, we're here in the epicenter of film and television here in Los Angeles, and there's probably 300,000 actors in this town, right? 300 actors ain't getting jobs, and it's a thing of going on auditions, and depending on what the mood of the casting director is, the producer is, the director is, your mood, hired or not, you get hired not just based on your talent, you get hired or not hired based on other factors that has nothing to do with your talent. That's the reality of it. And it's a oversaturated business. So there is about 1% that 1% are those actors who work steadily all the time and don't have to do anything else. And those are not necessarily actors who are making the millions. Those are actors who are making $75,000, $80,000 a year, $100,000 a year, but you don't know who they are because they play character roles, and they're hearing that, and they work a lot. So it's not just $1 million, actors who are in that 1%. There are many others, and then everybody else is, trying to, do things. And I think that the union now is being helpful because there's a lot of independent productions going on now. You can take your iPhone and you can shoot a film, and you can get a independent contract, and the SAG minimum and all the other stuff that they have going on. So the union is very much interested in encouraging that, because that's money. That's money for the industry. And this country is also fighting unions, because SAG, Actors Equity is the oldest union in this country. It's like 104, 105 years old, and started by actors, like the Screen Actors Guild was started by actors. So there are some things in place, and there's some other things that need to be in place from the unions, to help those folks who are trying to, get a leg up, But you have to know your business. And when people watch television and film, they look at it and go, "Oh, that looks easy."
Oh my gosh, yes.
And then everybody comes out here, to get on the turnip truck or whatever, and they come out here and they think they're going to take this town by storm in 6 months because they look a certain way or they got a certain, smile or whatever. And that's not the case, because not only do you have people out here who are not trained, you have people who are highly trained, who are coming out of the Royal Shakespeare Company in London, who are coming out of Carnegie Mellon, who are coming out of Yale Drama School, who are coming out of NYU, Columbia, and all these schools, are also looking for jobs here as well. So you're in this pool, So how do you be seen? You have to market yourself. You have to do all those sorts of things here, and it's tough. It's a tough business. But if you really want it, then you will continue to study. You will go to as many films as possible. You go to as much theater as possible. You go to every museum on the planet as possible, because it's art. and all this art feeds
Yes.
into your acting. So go to the museums, go to the galleries, read as many books and magazines as you can. Sit in the park and observe people and how they behave and how animals behave and whatnot, because that's all the tools you need to get to where you are.
Yeah, and just another factor out there that we didn't mention. Also, all the great stars that are having kids and our kids getting older now that want to be actors, you have to compete with those too. So if they have the role or they're getting in the room, and I'm talking about film now, I'm not talking maybe theater as well, but if they're getting in the room because their name and you're in the room, you really have to be able to bring it, because if you don't bring it, then you don't even have a prayer. These people are already out there. They already have money or support backing, and there you are, the underdog. But it is a dream, and it is LA, and I do believe that it can happen.
How about getting an agent? What are your thoughts on it? Anybody want to pick up on that?
I can tell you. I have a wonderful agent, Prodigy Talent, and I've been with them for quite some time. And the way that I found my agent, actually, they found me through one of the not social media, but the networks for actors, and it's called Actors Access. It's everybody has it here. You can actually put on your profile that you're looking for representation, and that's how I found my agent, and I've stuck with my agent for some time because I really like where he comes from, and he comes from the political side. Like, he comes from the Capitol Hill, and those guys are ruthless, and he's a lawyer, so I want something like that or someone like that on by my side. But again, I did mention this before, having an agent is not just letting your agent send you to auditions. You gotta do your work. You gotta be prepared. You gotta have your headshots, your resume updated, all your profiles online, updated pictures, and you gotta go out there and get the work yourself. I just got I think it'll be a huge audition for me, and that audition was gotten by me. But of course, I have to tell my agent, because it's a big opportunity, and he can go out there and push and help me and be by my side. So it's as easy as that to get an agent, but it can be really difficult as well.
Anybody else want to pick up on?
I mean, I'm kind of trying to figure that out myself. Yeah, like I just got especially the last question. I don't know. I like the part where you said you got to work on your talent. So I'm taking class. I moved here, and a week later I was taking classes. Go to Playhouse West, and I just that's enough for me to keep busy, to stay sharp. So I wouldn't have to worry about so how do I find an agent? How do I get roles? How do I get into a union? So they're still in the back of my mind, and every person I ask will tell me a different story, and it's just kind of just this confusing thing, I'm just gonna have to figure this one out myself, which is it's exciting, but also I have no idea what to do. It just seems very random, but I don't know. You do the work, it'll come to you, I think.
I was just going to say, to add on to all of this, and this is a tough business. There's no doubt about it, as John said. But you have to be careful with agents, like with anybody. The actor the young actor, I should say, has a habit of putting the agent on a pedestal. That you need that person. And what happens, agents could have been an actor before they became an agency or an agent. They could have been in some other type of business. And if you're not careful, you want an agent to take control. But at the same time, they're not here to control your life. I had a friend, a wonderful actor. He had an appointment with an agent, and he was on time, and the agent wasn't on time. Okay? And And my friend was there like maybe 20 minutes before time just to be there on time. The agent didn't get there till about an hour later. And he walked in the door, and he just walked in, and he told his secretary, okay, I'm in now. And then my friend Michael was called in, and he went right to the agent. He introduced himself, shook his hand, and then Michael, first thing he said to him, looked the agent in the eye, not being ugly or anything, but being professional, said, I think you owe me an apology. And the agent looked at him. What? He said, I think you owe me an apology. He says, why? You told me to be here at a certain time, and I was here, and you weren't, and you never called to say, you're running late, or, have Michael sit around for another 15 minutes, or have him leave because I'm not going to be there on time and call back the next day, whatever. So I really admired that stance, because most actors do put agents up on a pedestal. And, I think you have to learn to believe in yourself.
Yes.
And you have to really take that to heart, because you just don't want any agent. That agent, you paying that agent 10% of a salary. So that agent is literally working for you. You're the product. And if you keep your focus like that, you don't just pronoun to an agent, as a lot of actors do. You have to be very careful about that. Agent, manager, they work for you. They represent you. So, yes, we do need agents, and I've had many agents. And, I just pulled back from these agents now. I know when not too long ago, looking for an agent, have an interview with agents, I took it from the side too. I was looking at them. I was checking them out. Is this the person that I want to have in my life to represent me? Is this the person I think that would represent me well? And I looked at that person, not just mentally of what type of business that they were focusing on, but physically. Do I want that person to go out there and represent Jonathan Wynn? Does he look like a person that, would stand tall for me, he or she? So I take a different view on an agent now, where before I was, oh man, I need an agent, hungry for an agent. Yeah. Now it's more professional now.
Yeah.
Well, that speaks on actors having power. That speaks on actors using their power, because many actors don't use their power. And it's okay to say what your friend said to the agent. It's okay when you're in an audition, right? And where on those occasions where you have rude casting people, directors, producers in the room, and they're taking a phone call or eating a sandwich right in the middle of your audition, it's okay to stop and wait till they're finished. But many actors won't do that because they fear that that's going to affect them getting a job by standing up and saying, I really don't appreciate that sort of behavior, or just stopping and say, I'll let you, finish your phone call, because actors are fearful of losing their job. That's the reason why in this town right now, the situation that's going on with Actors Equity situation and 99C Theater is because actors have not stood up for themselves. If actors have stood up for themselves, we wouldn't be in this situation, because musicians stand up for themselves all the time, right? Musicians, having been privileged to have worked in various parts of the world and work with some top-rated jazz musicians, and their attitude is like, I will leave 30,000 people in that arena sitting there if I don't get the rest of my money.
Yeah.
Right? Actors will not say that. Actors go, oh, so you're not paying anything, and I'm going to be in rehearsals for 9 weeks, and we got a 14-week run, and you only want to pay me $5 a show? Okay, fine. Well, that's your choice. That's your choice, and you should have that choice. But then the producers say, well, then therefore I don't have to spend a lot of money here on this because this actor. But a musician, you tell a musician you're going to pay him $15. Musicians say, okay, right?
No.
I'm gonna give you 10 now, and I'm gonna give you the rest on the show. And at the show, and when you don't give that musician that money at the showtime, they will walk out of your show half hour before it starts, and justifiably, in my opinion, justifiably so.
Yeah.
Maybe you could tell the audience what is happening with the 99 seat.
Well,
Good question.
the 99 seat thing is that Actors Equity is a union for theater actors and stage managers that was founded about 104 years ago or something like that. And so we have a thing here in Los Angeles called the 99 seat settlement plan, where a venue has 99 seats or less, which means some theaters here have 50 seats, some theaters here have 20 seats. There's a couple of theaters in this town with 20 seats.
We have 30.
You know,
36.
yeah,
We have
there's
30
36.
seats.
Yeah, 30
Oh,
seats and
36.
whatnot. Yeah. So, but all the way up to 99. So under that, Equity has asked over the past 30 years that certain things be afforded to actors who are members of Actors Equity, like breaks. Like, you don't be rehearsing people for 5 hours and there aren't any breaks, right? That you have water, that you can't rehearse any more than 6 days a week. You can only rehearse so many hours in a day. You can only rehearse so many hours, during the week. Those are things that when you work on an equity show, those kinds of things happen. You have to take those breaks every hour in the 20. You know what I mean? And if you don't get the meal breaks, if you don't get the break, then the production goes into a penalty. Same thing on Screen Actors Guild. It's the same thing on films. So those are the protections. So what's been happening is that there's been a lot of theater going on in the 99 seat plan. There's probably more theater going on here in Los Angeles than there is in New York City. Right? So people feel it's gotten a bit out of hand here, and it needs to be some controls. So Equity says, okay, well, if you're going to use, equity actors and stage managers, then there needs to be a minimum wage paid, right? Because normally on an equity show, what the producers do, they pay pension and health and your salary, depending on the contract and the size of the room that you're on, in. Equity is not asking for that in the 99 seat. They are asking just to pay the minimum wage, right? They're not asking to be bonded, or for the production to be bonded. They're not asking for pension, and to give actors pension and health, because most of the 99 seat theaters could not do that. It's like 8%. It's like 8% of your salary is going into pension. So so like when the youngsters come along, we ain't getting no job. So now there's this big thing. So Equity came up with this proposal, and then the proposal was voted on by 4,000 members of Actors Equity, and over half of them disagreed with the proposal. And Equity said, well, sorry to hear that, but we're going to move forward with this. How are you going to go against what?
Majority.
Yeah, so you're going. So this is supposed to be a democracy, right? So this is the big the deal. So actors are saying. So a lot of actors are saying, well, you're messing with our creativity. If you're asking these producers to pay us, then we don't have the freedom to be creative, because now we got to get some money, and we really don't, like, the creativity is more important to us than the money, right? That's a choice, okay?
Yeah.
That's the thing. I guess if you're looking at it as a hobby, fine. But there's many of us that do this all the time.
Yeah.
This is how we make our living, doing this all the time. And in some circles, it's not appreciated. In other circles, there are many producers and directors in the 99 seat world who would take care of their actors, will pay them more, and will have all the things. And you think you're on an equity show, right? Because they take care of the cast and crew, right? There are some in this town who do not.
That's true.
You know what I mean? And so here's this big fight that's going on, and so somewhere, I don't know what, April or something like that is supposed to change over, December or something like that is supposed to change over, where these companies say if you're going to use actors who are members of Actors Equity and stage managers who are members of Actors Equity, that you have to pay them a minimum wage, which is what, $10 an hour now, according to California. Right? So so potentially a lot of these 99-seat companies and productions are going to shut down. It's going to shut down
because they can't afford to pay the $10
They can't afford to pay
$10 an hour,
or they'll just be doing two-person shows. Ain't gonna be doing 7 and 10 people shows. Not necessarily that you're gonna have 7 actors who are equity, but if you got 7 actors and 5 of them are plus doing, I think, a minimum of 32 hours or 28 hours a week, rehearsal, $10 an hour, then so you start breaking it down. So a lot of these companies are going to go by the wayside.
Well, the rules also give theaters under 50 seats called a showcase waiver, and
showcase code, which is based on what they do in New York City.
Yeah, which is essentially what they do in New York City. But anything over 50 seats, and it's really difficult to make a profit if you have less than 50 seats. Right. But
even if you have 99 seats, it's hard to make a profit unless you run a show for 6 months and you're selling out every night, or you're getting 3/4 houses. It's almost impossible to make money, and the tickets are going anywhere from $20, to what used to be $34.99.
Let's okay. I want to get into talk a little about the craft of the actor now. I want to do the craft of an actor, and then we're going to do this other David McKnight clip. Let's talk about how you get into your role until she come back. How do you get in? What's the first thing when someone hands you a script? What is your process?
What I do, read it.
From the beginning to the end.
From beginning to end.
Entire script.
And then
Interesting.
read it again. And then read it again. And not read my part. I mean, as, I'm acting this role. Just I know it's hard for the actor. It's easier said than done. But it's discipline to just read it through. Read the story through. Read it again. When actors go out for auditions and they have sides, and it's like mostly it's 2, maybe 3 pages, read that thing 8, 10 times, okay? And I found for myself, speaking just as an individual, that when I get to maybe my 3rd time, 4th time reading it, and I'm aware of my role, the lines automatically somehow start sticking with me. Not that I memorize them that quick, but they kind of stand out.
Well, let me let's play this clip. I want to play this clip about David McKnight when I had him on the radio show, and we talked about his process for learning lines, and then I want to discuss that. Something else, David. What is your process for learning lines?
Oh boy, that's a good one. That's a good question. I go to the bottom line and say by rote, and that is by doing the best that you can by any means necessary. Repetition, oh, absolutely, by rote. But also, what it depends on is the individual. Some individuals have photographic memories. Some actors, individuals don't have. They have a semi-photographic memory. Some actors, individuals, and they have talent, but they don't have good memory skills. So depending upon what your level is, depends upon what you're going to have to do in order to learn those lines. Now, if you have a photographic memory, they come to you as a snap. But if you recognize the fact, well, I'm a slow learner, it takes me a while, then that means you got a woodshed. You got to start early and dig deep. You know what I mean? And you do it by every means necessary. You could, say them over and over and over and over and over, day and night, morning, noon, and night. You can write them down, write it in pencil over and over and over. Because when you take a pencil and write something down, it does enhance your memory a little bit more than just speaking it out. With a pencil in your hand, you just write those lines out, and you try to do it from memory. First, you can do it by just looking at the script and then writing it out verbatim as you're reading it from the script. And there's something about that hand, the pencil in your hand, mind, pencil contact, and writing will dig it a little bit deeper into your memory. You do that, then you can put it on tape. You put it on tape and you can listen to it over and over and over. Then, like a lot of my actor friends and myself, what we do, we go to the park. We go out by the ocean or something, and we get out there and speak out those lines. You know what I'm talking about. Speak those lines over and over and over. You whisper those lines. You sing those lines. You do everything you can. When I was starting out as an actor, one of the things that I enjoyed doing, what I would try to find every aspect of how I could perform my lines. I sing my lines, I laugh my lines, I get angry with all my lines, everything. I'm angry all through every line in it. I laugh at every line, I sing every line. I clown every line. I do everything because, let me share this with you, and I do coach actors. One of the things that we do as actors, our bodies are our instrument. Every aspect of our body is our instrument. We don't, if you're a piano player, your piano is your instrument. If you're a horn player, horn is your instrument. But see, our bodies are our instrument. So that means it's our ears, our eyes, our voice, our energy, everything, our mannerisms, movements, and everything else. So we have to train that instrument, and we have to work with that instrument. And so you take that instrument and put it in all kinds of technique and environments that you can in order to be able to use it when the time is necessary. But getting back to remembering those lines, you just do it over and over and over and over and over until you got it.
Okay. That's David McKnight talking about his approach to learning lines. Okay, comments on that, and then in about 5 or 10 minutes, we're going to start talking about the festival. Let's talk about that.
Everybody has their own process. So David was talking about one aspect of the process. I worked with an actress years ago. I was a stage manager on the show, and she never called for a line in the play. Like during rehearsals, like actors will call for a line, and then the stage manager, assistant stage manager, would prompt the person, give them, like the first 3 words of the sentence. And one time she called for a line, and by the time it got out of my mouth, she remembered the line. So then we move into the performance space, and she's sitting in the house, and she has these 3x5 cards. And on the 3x5 cards, she had just letters, like an X, a Y, a B, a D, or whatever. And I said, "What are you doing?" She said, "I'm learning, I'm going over my lines." But I just see a bunch of letters on the thing. And I said, "Well, how do you do that?" She says, "I take the first letter of each of my words of what I'm saying, and I just put them on together." And somehow that connects to her brain somehow. Wow. But if you look at that 3x5 card, you just see a bunch of letters that it looks like Russian. You know what I mean? So that's her process. And just like David was saying, some people have a photographic memory. I'm the kind of person, I remember lines by the page they're on. I can see where they're placed on the page, whether the upper part of the page or the middle part of the page, and that kind of thing, and then all the other and then movement that goes, like I'm moving on this particular line or I'm standing in a particular place, So there's no right or wrong. Some people used to have tape recorders and put it underneath their bed while they sleep. So there's no right or wrong. Yeah, the way to do it.
Go ahead.
It kind of goes to what Jonathan was saying. You read the script, and when you really understand what the story's saying, what the author's trying to do with the play, you kind of get a sense of what's happening, like what's the doing in each scene. And then you start to realize, oh, we're telling a story. What is my character doing at this point? So, and then you go down into the work of like learning the lines, and I don't find it that hard to do if I just think about what am I doing? Why am I saying this to this person? And how am I feeling about it? And you find it starts to come, it starts to make sense. and then you get into rehearsals and you work with the person. You start to live it, you know, and after a while, you hopefully you don't start thinking about what's my line, you're just present, and they come. So, but learning by rote helps too.
Okay. Now, what we're going to do now, we're going to, we got a little section in here called Spotlight, where we can spend 2 or 3 minutes spotlighting a local theater company every time we come out and do a show. And at the same time, we're going to get Randy over here, who got this great play, 92 Grove Street, dealing with Alex Haley, Malcolm X. You just got through talking about Malcolm X, and I'm anxious to get in an interview to discuss that process. But so while Bill talk about who he's going to spotlight, we're going to get Randy up here. Bill, anytime you're ready.
Great. Tonight we're going to spotlight the Moments Playhouse. It's at 665 North Heliotrope Drive, Los Angeles, California 9004. Now, as Mohammed Admoa, his wife who runs the theater and owns the theater, he says life is about moments, and moments is really everything we have. Since I'm going to read his particular word, since time is inevitably intertwined with experiencing our precious moments. Wonderful line here. So this is what the Moments Playhouse was designed, and the concept he had in mind for that. He also says that, and I'm going to read this again, I truly love artists and believe art has always been significantly the most important driving force in any society, which leaves us with moments that stand the test of time. Obviously, he's been thinking about this a lot. And, of course, he's welcomed you all to become future renters, to book your, as he said, moments with us. Also, Mohammed is a wonderful actor and playwright and producer. And he runs classes on Tuesday nights at 7. And this particular class is a little different from acting classes all over the city. He intertwines spiritual yoga methods and proven acting techniques, and shows you what to do about booking jobs. The same thing we're talking about tonight, about auditions and where to put your information and how to respond to it. And as he says, it's judgment-free. And he encourages a healthy community which allows the genius within us all to shine. Wonderful sentiment.
Yes, it's beautiful.
Yeah. And as before we can talk a lot more about the moment, but we don't have the time tonight. So I'd like to reaffirm Moments Playhouse, 665 North Heliotrope Drive, Los Angeles, California, 90004. Phone 323-844-1466.
And we do the twice a month play reading.
Yeah. And the email is momentsplayhouse@gmail.com. And also, Melvin and I produce an Asona reading series every second Wednesday and fourth Wednesday at the Moment Playhouse at 7:15 each month. And what we do, we have aspiring playwrights and well-known playwrights and playwrights who want to try out new things to do, to come and read. They contact us. We set up a reading, a date. We have maybe a read-through, and then we put the piece up. And it kind of coincides with what the Moments Playhouse motto is, which is your theater, your voice. And I love that, how it just, work with us. We also did a showcase performance of Catch the Tiger at the Moments. And we've had readings of Sabado Morning there.
Yes, they were fun.
Yeah. Last night we did a screenplay, The Commune, by Carol Francis Likens, and we all had a great time. And after the play or the screenplay, we comment on the piece. The actors are given the chance to comment. The audience is given the chance to comment in an encouraging way. And afterwards, we have a meet and greet. So, who knows? You may come and meet your next wife or girlfriend or boyfriend.
Okay. Okay, let's move into talking about the festival part of it. And John, we're going to need you also into this discussion because, but I'm delighted to have with us in the studio Dr. Randy Ross, a great piece. And we're going to talk about it for a while because we was just talking about Malcolm X yesterday, right?
Yeah.
We had that discussion.
Big time.
Yeah. First of all, can you introduce yourself? Tell us a little about your background. I'm interested. A doctor. What kind of doctor?
A doctor?
And how
So
did you
work backwards, huh?
and how did you get in?
No, I'll go forward. I'll go from the beginning. I grew up in Los Angeles a long time ago. I was born in Virginia, but folks migrated to Los Angeles when I was about 4 years old.
Virginia.
I was raised in Virginia.
Oh, you were?
Yes.
Oh, well, I'm from Richmond. I was born in
Northern Virginia.
Northern? Oh, okay.
A little far.
I was in Richmond.
You were in Richmond?
When I was in the Army.
I was in
I was
Richmond.
stationed in Petersburg.
Oh, Petersburg, right, okay. So folks came here, and I attended school in the LA Unified School District, graduated from Fremont High School, 1968. So I guess, I don't know how many folks are out there listening to that. But anyway, so you can figure out how old I am, right? First went to East LA College after coming out of high school. Then I got a scholarship to State University of New York at Stony Brook. That's on Long Island, New York. And there's an interesting story there. When I left, I didn't have any money to speak of. And so I took the Greyhound bus from Los Angeles to New York. Never do that.
How long did that take you? Oh my
70
God.
hours. It's 70 hours, It takes 70 hours. I was on the same bus, and they kept switching drivers, So that was
What a ride.
Yeah, that was a ride, right?
Never ever do
Yeah,
that.
once in a lifetime ride. Once you do it, you've had your thrill, and that's it.
Yeah.
So I was in New York for 9 years. I got my bachelor's and master's degrees. And then I worked at the National Urban League in the Equal Opportunity Building on 62nd New York for about 6, almost 7 years. That was a wonderful opportunity. Vernon Jordan was heading up the organization. Ron Brown was the vice president for programs. And, of course, part of their stories. They went on to become much more significant than they were at the Urban League even. And so then I came back, and I pursued my doctorate at the Rand Graduate School. That's in the Rand Corporation, Santa Monica, California. And they've got a PhD program tucked inside there. And it focuses on public policy, only. So my PhD is in public policy analysis. And so, and I've been writing all along, so writing for a very long time. I started out writing poetry back in high school. Then I started writing some plays. Out of high school, I wrote about 2 plays. It was more, I was a big fan of, they call it Leroy Jones and then Mambo Baraka.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
and then so there are certain plays that resonate with you, like Ceremonies and Dark Old Men, for example.
Yes,
I keep reading that one.
Awesome.
Over, stuff like that. It just pumps you up, makes you want to, like
Act.
You want to act, right?
You wanna act, yeah.
I want to write, yeah. And then certainly more recently, August Wilson. I mean, he's a major influence in my writing. So I started writing plays. Then later I started writing short stories. I'm a published short story writer, many magazines. I've got a collection of short stories. I've edited a collection of short stories. I've got all these famous writers in it, Black African American writers. Griots Beneath the Baobab, that whole African connection, the griots, the thinkers, and the storytellers, hanging out beneath the baobab tree, which is indigenous to Africa. And then I've written nonfiction, lots of essays and stuff. So I stuff in LA Times and published by major publishers and things like that in this public policy analysis arena. So now this, what I'm doing now, I'm retired, effectively. So I focus a lot more on my artistic side, if you will.
And the passion.
Yeah, the passion, And so now this 92 Grove Street, if I could switch over into that, unless you have some questions about my background.
Richmond, because probably the most famous actor, famous black actor, come out of Richmond, Charles Gipling. They called it Gipling Court. Now it used to be Jackson Ward, but they named it after him. That's what Ben directed my play called The Emperor's Last Performance.
Oh, I had no idea.
Yeah, it was about the first famous black actor. He was in The Emperor Jones, and that's a whole nother story. But let's get into 92 Grove Street, which is a very, very interesting piece, the process. And first of all, tell us the reading, the date of the reading coming up.
The reading coming up is a part of the LEIMERT Park Theater Festival, right? And 92 Grove Street will be stage read on August 27th, starting at 7 p.m., at the Vision Theater. That's right on, what is that, 43rd?
43rd, yeah. Right around the corner here.
Yeah, right on the corner.
And we're also going to have to get in about Sloan's piece, John, because you're part of the festival also, telling us, that's the same day, right?
Yeah, at 3 o'clock.
3 o'clock at Barbara Morris.
Yeah, that'll be A Woman in the Wild Wild West, written by Sloan Robinson, with Daryl Allen Reed, and Monica Parks will be playing multiple characters in it. So it's about a black woman in the Wild Wild West who is also part Indian. She's part Cheyenne Indian, and but she rides bareback, and she says better than any man does, and whatnot. But and she's tired of men telling women what they should be doing and should not be doing. So, but there's a lot of history in terms of, and then there's a whole story about her father, how he was saved by the Indians, running away from the, plantation, and how the Indians basically brought him back to life, and how that whole thing happened, and he married he married the chief's daughter, and and so that's on the 27th at 3 o'clock. At Barbara Morrison's Performing Arts Center, which is around the corner down the street from the Vision Complex. So after y'all go to see A Woman in the Wild Wild West, go see 92 Grove Street.
I'm looking forward to it. I've always missed it because,
yes, sir.
Because I know they had Sammy and then Dwayne's Alex Haley this time, right? Dwayne Perry?
Yeah. We've got some wonderful actors. We had a rehearsal last night down at the Los Angeles Theater Center. And so, Dwayne Perry.
So it's Ashley.
Or Ashley's in there.
Ashley will be
Ebony.
This character I created is Ebony.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what's the inspiration? How did you first get started with this particular piece?
Well, I think we can probably begin with the autobiography of Malcolm X. And when I read the autobiography many years ago, I looked at it one way, and I did not read the epilogue, to be honest. I read you get to the autobiography because the epilogue is just Alex Haley, describing the process that he went through to put it together and stuff, And so when you're a young man, you say, I'm interested. I want to know what Malcolm did. I don't know all this other stuff you're talking about. So when I picked it up, it's like, about 3 years ago, I picked the autobiography back up and I read it through. And this time I read the epilogue. And I was fascinated, about, this process that they went through. They began meeting at Alex Haley's place, which was 92 Grove Street, which is in Greenwich Village, Manhattan. And they began in fall of 1960, not fall, but spring of 1963. And they met, quite frequently, late evenings until 64. Malcolm was assassinated in 65 in February. So everything is very tense here. It's this whole period. It's not that long that they have before Malcolm, because he's under pressure. Malcolm's under pressure for the duration, So I read that, and then that raised all kinds of questions about, he describes in broad terms sort of what, the process, what they were going through and some of the difficulties and stuff. But then I wondered about it. I said, really what went on in that room? They spent a lot of time together, And so the next piece that really piqued my interest in this whole topic was the biography of Malcolm X, written by Manny Marable. Came out in 2011. It was The Reinvention of Life, I think it's called. And in that book, Manny Marable starts saying, that starts talking about stuff that's not covered in the book. Like there's a certain woman who was really critical, key in Malcolm's life that was not covered in the book. Except when I reread it after looking at Manning's book, I looked at the autobiography, and there's like a reference to a woman, and he uses her last name. And it's really the woman who had a child by Elijah Muhammad, one of them, because many did, And so Malcolm had asked her if she would like for him to testify on her behalf in court. And they used their name because there were two women, But Manny Marable, he talks about it. It's like, wait a minute, this is not just coming out of the blue. Malcolm knew this woman for a very long time, this young woman. He had a relationship with her.
Oh, he did?
Yeah. So I had to...
Before Elijah?
Before Elijah. And so this story goes all the way back. So when Malcolm is about 13, he comes to Boston, right? He lives with his sister Ella in Boston. And this is when he meets this young woman. She's younger than he is, And she's a little girl at the time. And then, so when Malcolm was off doing his thing, he ends up in prison, but she comes out, he's got a relationship with this young lady. And
she still was a young lady when he came.
She's still young. But, she loved him. And so he became a Muslim in prison. And so once he gets out, he becomes a servant. What's the word for it? It's not servant, but he becomes...
He almost like a devotee.
Right, of Elijah Muhammad. So he's doing the work. He's doing the work, the good work. Disciple. Yeah. Disciple, great word, So he ends up in New York, right? So she follows him to New York. So the word is, this is in Manny Marable's book. So he says that this woman who became a Muslim, because Malcolm became a Muslim. She was not a Muslim initially, but Malcolm became a Muslim, she became a Muslim, right? And so Malcolm at some point decides that he's going to marry Betty. And this woman hears about it. And so she was in the mosque, it's mosque number 7 in New York City. And the word is that she was thoroughly pissed off, and she, stormed out of the mosque, And so this is what Manny Marable talks about. So this relationship that they have, with this woman is a fascinating one,
Must be. Yeah.
And Louis Farrakhan even talks about it, said that Malcolm was having trouble with his wife Betty, and he wanted to go back to this other woman. So that basically alerted me that there are things...
Excuse me, did Elijah Muhammad find out about that relationship between Malcolm and this girl before?
Well, I think he knew.
He knew.
I think he knew, and because Malcolm, given the difficulty caused, by his proposal to Betty and having the other woman there in New York, he had to figure out what to do with that woman. So he got her a job.
With Elijah Muhammad
in Chicago.
Ah.
It gets interesting.
So now Malcolm puts a lot of this guilt on himself when she becomes pregnant.
Maybe. One thing, if you notice the movie you just watched, right? Spike Lee kind of hints at that. If you remember the first part of the movie, it's a young lady in that movie that Spike Lee touched on that just a little bit. But yeah, I'm gonna let you go on with that because I also want to talk about Manny Marble, he talked about those 3 missing chapters in the
Oh, yeah.
autobiography of Malcolm X in that same book.
Yeah.
But if you could touch on that, but go ahead, you can go.
Okay, yeah, well, that's the thing about that. So this character, I created a character, and for all intents and purposes, she's fictional, but she's a composite, if you will, of several women, you know. But I needed her, and in the play, only Malcolm sees. She's in his imagination, if you will. I mean, so when he's talking with Alex Haley, you know, Alex asks him certain questions, and he doesn't really answer straightforwardly. So we have the reflections. He's actually having his own private conversation with this woman. So he doesn't, but that he doesn't want to come out, right? So we have that. So it's very, very interesting. So she's got like some monologues, and she's young sometimes. She's a little bit older, and then towards the end of his life, you know, she comes into his head, and she sings him a song. And so Ashley's going to sing a song. Yeah, I wrote the song.
Ashley,
you know?
she's
Yeah, I wrote the
Ashley is
song.
Ebony.
Huh?
Wonderful.
Yeah, she's gonna do it. So she was doing it last night. I said, oh, okay, here we go. We're gonna do this, you know.
Good. Yeah.
So I think that's an interesting part of it. It's sort of, you know, taking that location, that venue, 92 Grove Street, putting those 2 gentlemen in that room, and trying to figure out what they talked about over that 2-year period. And then the pressure they were under. I mean, it's not just the Muslims and stuff like, you know, but you also got the pressures of the publisher. So this is another character is the agent, and the agent is Paula, all right? So Paula is the agent. She's, you know, she storms in the room. She says, man, you know, first we got a deal, and then second you run in low. Because Alex Haley was always slow. I mean, he
Took his time.
Yeah, right. He certainly took his time, you know. So, and that was a big deal they got on it. He had never written a book before this one, you know. So she's rushing in, and so I you know, I took some liberties there because the real agent was an old white guy by the name of Paul Reynolds. So I've got Paula, and she's the younger woman. So and the relationship between Alex and Paula is a little bit suggestive sometimes. She has a key to his.
Let me ask you.
What?
Let me ask you a little bit more about Alex Haley, because recently it would come out. Well, you know, a couple of things that came out. It's interesting that you talked about how tense that time period was, 63, because we was just getting ready to head into the assassination of President Kennedy, you know, which came up in November, which was a key element.
And the way I handle that in the play, right? Because in the play, you know, Malcolm is assassinated at the end of this play, and in the beginning of the play, there are bullets, you know, there's shots fired, and so these discussions between these 2 men take place beginning May. In June of that year, Medgar Evers is assassinated.
And so Jackson, Mississippi.
So the first shots refer, you know, although I don't reveal that in the beginning, you know, we have shots and we have the little girl saying, "Daddy, Daddy, get up," right? Which is a true story. And so at the very end of the play, we got "Daddy, Daddy, get up," but by implication, those are Malcolm's daughters, you know, who happen to be at the Audubon. You know,
so you set it up metaphorically.
Metaphorically, yeah. But but in part too, it has to do with the times. Like you're saying, it's not just Malcolm X is a rogue out there is doing something that's different from everybody else. It's just an interesting time where a lot of black people are getting killed. You know, it's not just, and then they kill white presidents. So I mean, it's a very, very interesting time.
Yeah, lots of rumors, lots of
little girls getting blown up, and Birmingham. I mean, it's something. There's madness. Yeah. There's madness in the country. You know,
and you had the Vietnam War protest was going on at the same time.
And let me just add this real quick because I was there in Vietnam. That was I'm not from the South like Melvin is. Or you in Virginia. I have never experienced such a racial. I mean, here, you know, you're fighting an enemy called the Viet Cong, and there was such a racial intensity between the American soldier, white and black, unbelievable. It's never been filmed, never been heard. Only people that talk about it are the veterans.
Mm-hmm. And that's a great book, because I was over there too during that time period. But Bloods is a book that talk about that.
Yes.
I want to get back on Alex Haley for a minute. It's a few things, because I thought Alex Haley was such an interesting character, and it's something that Manny Marble said, and it's something that Dick Gregory said. Dick Gregory, he said that after the death of Malcolm X, after the assassination of Malcolm X, those 3 chapters that Malcolm X finished with Alex Haley, that Alex Haley took those 3 chapters out, and in his book, Manny Marmor talked about, he sit down and he talked to this lawyer in Detroit, and gave him a couple hours at the airport to sit down and read the 3. Now, I want to just get a little bit of feedback on that, because I know these men was totally different in terms of their political belief.
Right,
Alex Haley being conservative, he was just as far away from the Nation of Islam as you can be in his political thought. Now I don't know if. Go ahead.
And this is an interesting question, because I read some about that too. Now it's my understanding that these missing chapters have to do with Malcolm's plans for the future. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yes,
it's the new organization he has. He has 2 new organizations. Mm-hmm. Right. One is. I can't even think. One is a Muslim Mosque Incorporated, right?
And the one pattern after the African organization.
Right, and he's got that. And so there's some mention of that. But so the idea of writing, just having some chapters that get into the details of that are very interesting. Mm-hmm. Now, I think, and I'm not sure who made the decision. I doubt that Malcolm made it, because Malcolm was assassinated before the book was published, right? Because the book was published in November '65. And he was assassinated in February. And so somebody had to make some decisions. Mm-hmm. Now, it may not have been a bad decision. I mean, if I look at it, put on another hat, say if you're a publisher and you're trying to sell books, right? And so here's Malcolm. He's really kind of flailing here. He's not sure what he wants to do. He's not having great success with these organizations. He's under great pressure, right? He did not want to be out of the Nation of Islam, right? He was forced out of the Nation of Islam. So he's trying to figure out what to do, So when you have the, I keep trying to think of that organization name of it, the one that's patterned after the
African Organization of African Unity.
American Unity, Organization of African American Unity, Afro-American Unity. So they had a meeting, right, in New York City, invited everybody, and so they were going to charge dues like $8, and they only raised, it was like less than $100 or something. Mm-hmm. So the thing was not clicking, and they were trying to figure out what to do. And Malcolm, he has to leave the country, and the thing in my head, it's like Alex says in the play that he really left for such a long period of time because he knew that they were trying to get him, right? And so, but the folks in OAU were saying, "Where's Malcolm? We need Malcolm. We can't have him away, for that great length of time, for months, just." Over in Africa, so my conclusion, provisionally, is that those chapters were not quite baked well enough, and so and they're less interesting, to be honest, than his life up to that time. Mm-hmm. It's the whole it gets it gets sort of pedantic. It's like you're talking about these concept OAU and then the whole history of African Americans, and if we can get the Africans to work with us to sort of reveal sort of the racism and support efforts to do something like that.
Because the same ideas Marcus Garvey had introduced in the 1920s. And they got rid of him. So you didn't think you think it was a matter of the chapters not either well written or not interesting enough.
Well, that's my and I'm only guessing. Admittedly, I'm only guessing here. Mm-hmm. So that's my guess. Because when you look at, when I read the book now, it's just great because it puts a cap on his life. If you try to take you go back to the beginning, you go up to the point, because he's assassinated. So there's no more going forward. And these organizations are flailing. I mean, they don't even have leadership,
But it would have been good to know exactly how he was thinking, though.
Well, he kept changing his mind. He wasn't sure what was going to work. I mean, that's when I saw the Manny Mariposa, and they had the notes about how many folks signed up. I mean, he didn't have that kind of problem with the Nation of Islam. I mean, he didn't think of money. He's not a money-oriented. He's not a materialistic person, Malcolm. I mean, he just the nation gave him his home. They gave him his his car. They paid his expenses, and so he wasn't thinking about. Betty was really concerned about all that. She wanted she wanted things. They had a family, a growing family, and they needed more stuff, a bigger home, and all that kind of jazz. But Malcolm was a disciple. I mean, that's where his heart was. Building
loyalty.
His loyalty. Yeah,
and it's a couple other things that happened, because, see, he was well received on the international scene.
Right.
To the extent that, he met all of your key African leaders at that time, to the extent that he had convinced them to take the United States before the UN.
Yeah.
And then on his way back, they tried to assassinate him in France. But see, leading up to what happened to Alex Haley later on, when he get into the legal trouble, he get into after Roots come out.
Right.
He get into legal trouble, and the professor take him to court to say that he plagiarized the majority of Roots. And the professor won the case, and he had to pay so much money. And when I began to really focus in on that, because I was really loving a lot of Alex Haley work, the Next Generation. I thought James Earl Jones was so great in that. Al Freeman Jr., he played Malcolm X in that portion, which was so excellent. But when Alex Haley passed, and they were selling off his assets to meet the creditors, I couldn't understand that at all, because I was saying to myself, wait a minute now, how could somebody who wrote autobiography of Malcolm X, Roots, the Next Generation, all the articles he had in Playboy, because he wrote a lot of stuff in Playboy too, how could he be broke at the end of his life? It's so hard for me to understand.
He was a big spender.
Yeah, but I mean, even with the reciduals, when you think about the reciduals from autobiography of Malcolm X.
Yeah, but he was a
big ranch down there.
Yeah, big ranch and all that. I mean, he just like Sammy Davis probably was broke.
Yeah.
Sammy said he bought an airplane. It's like he's trying to keep up with Frank. It's like your income is great. Yeah. But it's like my old friend's father says, if your outgo exceeds your intake, then your upkeep will be your downfall.
Okay, you're right.
So that's the thing about that. So his brother was a lawyer, and the brother was the executor of the will, and so he had sons and stuff, daughter, and then he had a wife. He wasn't living with her, I don't think, But so they had all got, so the brother is the lawyer who said, because they not, says, we're going to sell all this stuff. We got to pay these bills, and they probably want to put money in their pocket. So legacy is an interesting thing. I'm not sure always how to think about that, because some say it makes sense. So Henry Louis Gates says, they should actually give that to Schoenberg or somebody, or some library, maybe give it to Harvard, right, if he's at Harvard, but give it so that the researchers can actually use them.
Those 3 chapters?
Well, not just the 3 chapters, but all that stuff, because there's lots of interesting, there are drafts, the archive, all kinds of, they've got drafts and notes and, all kinds of fascinating stuff that you just don't, So, but eventually, even if you sell it though, right, if you sell it, then the way it works, if it's of sufficient value, then somebody will figure out a way to pull it together into some library. With the money is, pull together the money. So I think a lot of that stuff is in certain libraries or a library. So that if you wanted to study Alex Haley, or a book just came out, Alex Haley, a biography in 2015. It's pretty good, but it's a little, it's a little sketchy because his life is a little sketchy, And the thing about luckily I didn't have to cover this in this play because this play sort of ends in 1965, and so Roots only comes, Roots comes out many years later in '76. But one thesis that I have is that he really got the idea from Malcolm. That is, he was planning to write a story about his mother's family and going back in America. He had not planned to go back to Africa, And Malcolm said, but if you don't go back, well, Malcolm and my Malcolm says, and, if you don't go back if you don't take it all the way back to Africa, you will not have really done anything, because if you just take it back to where they started in slavery, then well, you're not simply not telling the whole story, but you haven't done anything to lift the dignity of the people because we're still at that point that when you get to the bottom, we're in slavery. We need to go all the way back to Africa, to talk about, how we were just a really great, people in Africa, we're civilized, etc. And then we were pulled away from Africa. And so Haley says, well, that's impossible to do. Yeah, but that's the thing you got to do. Otherwise, your story is not going to make sense. So he tried to do the impossible. This whole Roots idea, going back and finding your ancestors, that's an impossible notion. So when he goes through, and the thing about him though, I mean, you got to give him credit because he's an extraordinary storyteller, right? Alex Haley, extraordinary.
No.
You can't. I mean, he's just top dog when it comes to storytelling. And even the way he does it, I mean, the way he builds up a story like Roots by saying he got on the ship, and some say he didn't really get on the ship in the hole or stuff, trying to sit right and all that. They say some say he didn't really do that, And the whole thing about going back to Africa, he's got the whole entourage. His brother, the lawyer's with him. He's got other folks, George, his buddy from Tennessee, and so they all got a whole entourage. And he's spending Reader's Digest money. Reader's Digest put him on a stipend, so he calls them up and say, well, I need some money because I need to go to Africa and do that. They had no idea. This guy knows how to spend money. So he gets to Africa, right? And so he finds out, somebody tells him that, yeah, we found the guy you need to talk to, this griot. He's up in so-and-so, so he's way up there. Now he says, if you want to talk to him and really get the story out of him, you got certain conditions that you got to meet, You gotta have like 3 or 5 musicians, I don't know, a couple of goats. you gotta have all this stuff. You gotta have all this stuff. In order to stimulate this cat. Because this cat. So I mean, it's all that kind of stuff. So, it's like you ask yourself, like why do they have to go all the way back there and do all that stuff in order to get this story? It's like isn't there another way to do it? But he's such a great storyteller because he knows that, if he can tell it that way, that he actually had to go all the way to Africa and, over to his homeland and then make that connection. Even before you write the book, people says, because they're going to be articles and stuff, say, oh, man, this cat went all the way back to Africa and found it. I want to read how that works. Because if you don't have that, right, if you lack that piece and you just writing a book about your African connection, then what you have is that novel that white guy wrote called The African, the guy who sued him. Now, there's a question about, well, how did some of that book get into Alex Haley's book, right? Because, that's the conclusion that the court reached, that, this is much too close. And he said he didn't read the book. He had researchers, and they were pulling stuff from all over the place. And then, the whole thing about references, getting the references and stuff and all that. Right? So he said, who knows? Anything could have happened. But they go back and forth. So, but anyway, in court, he still denied that he
because the judge made him apologize, and the judge told him right in the transcript that if we wanted to destroy you, we could, because he ended up paying $600 and some thousand dollars or something like that.
But is it because he was successful? Because the whole Roots thing was successful. If Roots hadn't been successful, would that
absolutely?
Would that have gone down?
No. Because the Africans didn't make any money. I mean, if he made $20 to his name, but he didn't make any money with that book.
Yeah.
And because he's not he's not a really like a Alex Haley. He knows how to push stuff, man. He's really extraordinary in that way.
But the problem with it though is that Alex Haley had lifted so many of the direct pieces from that book. I mean, pages of it.
Well, it wasn't that bad. I don't think it was that bad. Yeah.
Well,
there's some, but it's not really that much. And probably if he had to, if he had time, he could just really do that too. It's an interesting thing about fiction too, and versus nonfiction. I think is that if you write a nonfiction book, I think that's the other part of the thing that's interesting about the whole thing, because I think at first he was saying that is the story of the history of his family on his mother's side, going all the way back to Africa, right? It's a true story, right? And then later people were saying, well, wait a minute, this can't be true, and that can't be true, but because when you get something big like that, everybody comes out of the woodwork. You got the academics, everybody, because the academics come out, they can do research and get a PhD and all that. Say, yeah, I got Alex Haley. But so everybody comes out of the woodwork. So then he started saying, well, it's factional. That's why I use the term factional interpolation in my thing, factional interpolation. So we got some facts, but we got some holes. Yeah. We can't finish the story unless we stuff it with something. It's like in Jurassic Park, when they couldn't come up with the complete DNA for the dinosaurs, what did they do? They got some frog DNA. They frogged it. Right. So Alex,
they used a lot of different.
They used the frog DNA to fill in the gaps, and so Alex Haley had to frog it, in order to come up with the full story. He frogged it, and he got caught. Somebody called him on.
Let me ask you this, Randy. He was almost like, for a long time, his father, Simon Haley, who was a brilliant, went to one of the black schools, almost considered him a failure all the way up until that point. Do you deal with do you get into any of Alex Haley's relationship with his father, Simon?
I do, and I'm trying to think. So I actually do, because he talks about that. It's like, he can still feel Simon Haley's foot, kicking him up in his mouth, because Haley was he was a bright student in high school. Really? I think graduated at 16.
It's almost like Booker T. Washington.
But he went to college and dropped out, right? So he didn't know what to do. He ends up in what's the military branch that he was in? Coast Guard.
Navy.
Coast Guard. He's in Coast Guard.
Because he ended up in Navy intelligence.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, Alex Haley did. That's what made a lot of people suspicious.
I know it's Coast Guard, and then he was a journalist. Ended up a journalist in the Coast Guard.
Yeah.
Yeah. But from his father's perspective, Simon wanted his sons to become PhDs. And so the other brother became a lawyer, who was Alice is the oldest. And then the second brother became a lawyer. I think there's a third son too, and I'm not exactly sure how he came out. But Simon had a master's degree. The mother went to college. That's why Alex stayed with his grandmother in Henning,
Tennessee.
Yeah. So that was his grandmother Cynthia, whom he stayed with, and his grandfather while they were off going to school and stuff. So that was the pressure on him, and so he always wanted to do something, and he ended up doing it, I guess, in a way. Yeah.
What I need to do, because we are within the orbit of this Black Theater Festival, right? And according to what Mr. Burt was talking about, they hope to move this into the direction of a national theater company. So what I would like to do, because in the 20s you had a major problem after the Federal Theater Project closed. There was an effort by W.E.B. Du Bois, Herbert Harrison, and Theophilus Lewis to push for a national black theater company. But the actors and the playwrights couldn't come together. They had to decide whether it should be around the actors or whether it should be around the playwrights. Now, Eugene O'Neill and all of these guys, they had went in the direction and created a playwrights company. Kenny McGowan Hall at UCLA is named after him. So this is what Du Bois, they was trying to push for a black theater company based around the writers, the playwrights. And the actors rebelled, went out on their own, and we've been suffering ever since. So I would like to play a clip when I had Kim Sanders on the radio show, and I asked him about that, his thoughts. A clip with Kim Sanders, and then we'll come back and discuss it.
Well, at the core of the Black experience is being able to think holistically. At the core of the African experience is the ability to think holistically. And even though Du Bois was saying at the starting point it was about the playwrights, he still had a holistic agenda. And actors wouldn't have been left out. He was trying to put together a structure so that we could develop a systemic way of sustaining the culture. When you are exposed, it's very seductive. Actors were on stage. It's very seductive when you're getting a lot of attention. And I would assume that probably had something to do with the split. You know, this desire to be seen as opposed to the desire to maintain the integrity of the mission. And we still have to be mindful of that today, because there'll still be those systemic, seductive elements out there to try to split up agendas, split up missions. And if we don't have the discipline to recognize that, then we won't have any more success than they did. And we have to be, mature enough to avoid infighting. We have to be mature enough to avoid infighting. It has nothing to do with us disrespecting your individualistic way of thinking, but if you want to collaborate, then there has to be some humility. There has to be some listening, teaching, silence, educating, all happening at once. And what we tend to do is we get lost in what is first, as opposed to saying that's first in a particular perspective. But that's not discounting second, third, fourth, or fifth, because they're all pieces to the puzzle. I think along with grant writing, you're going to need to appeal to those who have economic power that are not a part of the government.
Yes.
Who look like us,
Yes.
who don't look like us,
Yes.
who are committed to humanity, committed to children, committed to women's rights. And all of those people need to be addressed at the exact same time. And we need to be careful about pushing each other away, saying that their ideas don't matter. And we also need to listen to the youth and ask them what are good ideas and how can those ideas be implemented, because sometimes the older innkeepers don't want to sit down and let the youth be energetic and use that vibrancy and creativity. Sometimes the youth don't want to sit down and listen and establish their powers and their creativity and their discipline. And so they go out there and it's easy for them to be figured out and they become a casualty. And all of that talent is wasted. So there needs to be a lot of internal work on every person to understand the importance of buying into a collective agenda, because that's who we are as a people.
That's right.
Yeah, so that was Kim Sanders. And I think it's so important because I think a piece like this is going to bring up such an important discussion. And I was thinking about this the first time. I think the first somebody that told me about this script was Judy Bowman, when you first started working on it. And I was thinking then how important this is, how important it is for this next generation to come, and to make sure that that people don't take sides in it. People don't take sides, and I feel this way about Alex Haley. I feel this way about Malcolm X. I think the most important thing is a generational discussion to educate this generation of young people about what was happening during that particular time.
Right.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to seeing it. How many pages is it down to now?
87.
87.
So it's a two-act play.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hoping the Roby produce it.
Yeah, put in a word for me. Yeah.
Well, that's right up Roby's alley. I mean, that's in their wheelhouse.
Oh yeah, and I've got to say, Ben has been extraordinary. I mean, and this is the fourth this will be the 4th reading. So they've got a program now where they're taking, plays out to the community. That's the idea. And so they went over to Concerned Citizens South Central Los Angeles with the play. So they had a venue over at Slauson and Central, my old neck of the woods. And next they went to
Watts Village,
Cal State LA. They got a wonderful theater at Cal State. Cal State of the Art. That was wonderful over there. And then next to the Watts Towers Arts,
Over there with Rosie Hooks.
Yeah, and so now, so I think that's a wonderful idea too. You're going to the community with works, historical works, and something like this that stimulates discussion. About who are these people, and hey man, they were really humans, and they were just not somebody on a pedestal or something like that, or somebody who may have been on a pedestal and got messed up because of the suits and all that. But these are real humans that are trying to deal with life. And I think the play is the part, it's like you said, Alex Haley's conservative and Malcolm. So they're loggerheads, And so that's good for drama, right? When they're loggerheads like that, going back and forth, and say, it's like, whose book is this? You messing with this is my book. This is not your book. I hired you to help me with the book. You're not. I'm the writer, but you're just helping me put this stuff together. And all that
I wish because we could do a whole nother show on this, because I would really like to get a discussion on how Muhammad Ali got caught up in the mix, because he was caught up in the mix in this time period too, even right after the assassination.
That's covered in the
touch a little of that, which is great.
Oh, sounds great, yeah.
I think
we got about 10 minutes, so
I was going to say real quick,
Yeah.
Melvin, along these lines of what we just heard, what's his name? Just speak. Kim
Sanders.
Kim Sanders. And, once again, I brought this up earlier, and I'm saying this, listening to your insight as well, Randy. We all have to be very careful about putting people on a pedestal, because we all are human. And, people put people up on a pedestal, and then all of a sudden I'll use the word pranam to them. And before you know it, they become like a god almost. And I don't care who they are, who it is. You have to be very, very careful with this in this life. And we see this now, running this for the presidency right now. And how people are almost, being swayed by someone who has, just obsolete different views and ideas.
Let me. I want to go around, get a little quick closing comments, about a minute from everybody over here, and be sure to come out to the festival and check out the reading. I know you guys come out and check out the reading.
Maybe you could repeat
and we repeat it when we get around. Let's start with John.
So this has been a great chat. Once again, the LEIMERT Park Readers Theater Festival is going on. It started, opening started tonight. It's going to September 4th. Directing a piece called "A Woman in the Wild West." That's written by Sloan Robinson, and that's performing on the 27th Saturday at Barbara Morrison's performance place. I'd also like to say that it is what Kim Sanders said in the thing is about getting to the young people, and what Roby is doing. What Roby has done with 92 Grove Street. Did the same thing with Bronzeville. Took it into the school. Had study guides on the subject. So because that's through the art is education.
Okay, right.
And following up right from 3:00, and then you come on over to the Vision Center. Take a look at 92 Grove Street, which is directed by Ben Guillory, written by yours truly, Randy Ross. And that will be at, I said 7:00, right? 7 to 9. And it's going to be very, very interesting. We've got some fresh original music that goes along with the dramatic rendering. And I think you'll enjoy it.
Looking forward to it.
I'll just finish up by saying, keep your eye open for Sabado Mornings. Opening September the 8th.
Preview.
Oh, that's a
Preview, studio stage at 520 Northwestern between Beverly Boulevard and Melrose. And also put an extra note in there with these two guys to my right, Catch the Tiger. I'm sure that's going to be coming around soon.
Yes, it will.
As well.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I have no real closing notes other than it's been a really interesting evening. We've learned a little bit. Some things we knew before, some things we didn't. And I really urge you all to come and see Sabado Morning. And, of course, on Saturday to go and see Sloan and production play. And, of course, your play.
Okay. JC.
Oh, well, I just wanted to say a big old shout out to George Corbin, who our playwright, who is not here today, but he's getting better, and he's an amazing playwright. And yes, I encourage you and invite you to share and come to watch Sabado Mornings. It's a great vision behind it that I don't think we talked about, did we? But maybe for the next time. Big shout out to all my fans out there. Check me out at www.jccadena.com for all my events and dates for Sabado Morning.
Okay.
I loved hearing the discussion about your play and everything, and just theater changes lives, and like just the discussions and the ideas, and it's important. Like I did say, I'm just excited and very hyped to do Sabado Mornings and to come see your play and just talk about it and just live it, So, yeah.
Okay, I want to thank my special guests for coming out. Thank you for tuning in to Focus on Theater from your host, Melvin Ishmael Johnson, co-host Bill White. May the peace and blessings of the life-giving creative spirit be upon you and upon your family. I leave you with the trailer for Sabado Mornings. Yes.
Fear is the mother of isolation, as grief is the mother of guilt. The acceptance of losing someone can be almost impossible. And when the hope of looking forward to seeing someone you loved is forever in doubt, the spaces in between can lead to a life sentence of loneliness. Eddie is a retired Los Angeles police officer. Rosa, a restaurant manager. His wife committed suicide. Her husband disappeared in Mexico. Their self-imposed guilt has led them to destroy their dreams. But their attraction to one another might be the key towards unlocking the deep sadness and uncertainty that has held their souls in a timeless prison without love or connection to the outside world. Isolated from family, friends, and life, they're really only hiding from themselves. Director Melvin Ishmael Johnson presents a story by George Corbin, Sabado Mornings, developed by the Playwrights Workshop Lab at the Roby Theater. Sabado Mornings stars J.C. Cadena as Rosa, Jonathan Wynn is Eddie, and also starring T.J. Ba and Aaron Garcia. Sabado Mornings, opening Thursday, September 8th, running through Sunday, September 25th, at Studio Stage, 520 Northwestern, Fridays and Saturdays at 8 and Sundays at 5. Tickets available at blacktheater.org.